The Democrats had nothing, and now they have less than nothing. And I think they're going to lose the 2020 election very big, including congressional seats, because of the path that they chose. Now, who knows where it goes? From what I hear, they're giving up. But I just say, I know them too well. They'll never give up. They'll go back into the room and they'll try and figure something out. This whole thing has been, honestly, it's been collusion. It's been collusion with the media. It's been collusion with other countries. This has been a disaster for the Democrats, and I think we're going to win bigger than ever.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to take a look at the latest new Q posts, and we have to ask the question, are we still the land of the free? As the tyranny of the fascist left is being exposed through this pandemic lockdown, we are going to talk about what that means for you. Plus, we're going to look at a bunch of different stories that Q is bringing to our attention that we need to examine more closely, and the stories that the mainstream media will not tell you about. So you guys are going to want to stick around and check out that and a whole lot more. Hi, my name's Craig. Welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. You guys know the drill. I say thank you if you've hit that subscribe button. If you guys haven't done it, what are you waiting for? Come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and then select all so you get notified as soon as all of these videos get posted. So today we're going to pick up right where we left off. We left off at Q post 4076. We're picking up at Q post 4077, and there's a lot of Q posts that we're going to get through here today. We're going to talk about stories the mainstream media won't report because we know they are or on the side, I should say, of the tyrannical fascists on the left who are running some of these cities inside of our country and states like basically communist, socialist regimes. And we're going to talk about a bunch of other stuff that you're going to want to hear, including what we covered in the last episode about that general who is now trying to go out and discredit the Q movement and the pro-Trump movement. We're going to talk about that and the mystery behind a reporter who, mysteriously lost his life just after exposing him. We'll talk about that, so stick around for that. But before we do that, I got to remind you, this video is brought to you in part by Brave Browser. Now, you guys can download this for free, and it works on any device that you're using. So whether you're on your iPhone, your Android phone, or you're on your desktop using Internet Explorer, or you're using Mac and you're on OS and you're using Safari, their OS, and you're using Safari or whatever, you can download this for free using the link in the description today. It's a better internet browser. It blocks the ads. It has a bunch of other great features. You guys should check it out. Download it today. Use the link in the description to download it for free. And that lets them know I sent you. And it's a great product. So I encourage you guys to go check it out. Now let's get into the latest Q post. First off, we have Deanna for Congress's tweet being mentioned here. But first, Q gives us this graphic saying, and this is from the Twilight Zone. So if you guys aren't familiar with this show, it's a show from around the 50s, 60s that was about all of these, strange scenarios, right? It was very, very thought-provoking show. And I think they did a modern reboot with some Hollywood people. It's not really good, but the original is pretty good and worth watching. But if you are familiar, you'll understand this. It says a world, imagine if you will, and that's how every episode started, I should say. And this is for people who obviously don't know the show. The narrator will come out and say, imagine if you will, a world where this is happening, and then that sets up the story so that you can watch this story. But it says, a world where people believe that the temperature of the planet can be controlled by giving more money to the government. Yeah, exactly. That's the Twilight Zone that we're living in. And then Deanna for Congress, she is a friend of mine, and she's a friend of the show. She's been on the show before, and now Q is retweeting her or posting her tweet saying, when the left says believe in science, just remember that their climate expert is Greta Thunberg. So, exactly. That's all you have to really understand to understand the hypocrisy of the left and the just complete, insane, almost militant adherence to their, orthodoxy, which is to believe, first of all, you believe all women except Tara Reid. You believe all the climate scientists except the ones who say it's not real. That's the way that they work. And I think that's exactly exposing that, logical fallacy that the left always seems to have in all of their arguments. And of course, shout out to Deanna. She's the one running for Congress in Nancy Pelosi's district. So if you guys want to come find her, I'll leave a link to the tweet in the description, as I will everything else that Q posted. So Q says the world is waking up, Q. And yeah, that's exactly what's happening here. I know a lot of the people who've helped Deanna, and yeah, the world is waking up to what's happening. So the next one here is Tom Fitton, his status, and it's a tweet from him saying, "It was never about Russia. Targeting of at real Donald Trump, President Trump, served to protect Hillary Clinton and now Obama, Biden, McCabe, Brennan, Comey, Schiff, etc., and their enablers / co-conspirators in Obama administration for prosecution." Well, let's watch this clip.
We have conducted the most significant non-governmental investigations, frankly, in recent American history, if not. We uncovered the Clinton emails. We uncovered key information about Benghazi, tying the White House to the big lies about Benghazi, leading to the creation of Select Committee. The FBI followed our lead in terms of the criminal investigation or matter of Hillary Clinton. And certainly, Mrs. Clinton wasn't indicted officially, but there was a measure of accountability on Election Day, and certainly if the voters were sitting as a grand jury, you know what their verdict was on Election Day. And we didn't do it because I didn't know Hillary Clinton was going to run for office. But we did it because we had a right to these records under the law, and Mrs. Clinton thought she was above the law. She came into office immediately, and despite warnings from security people in the State Department, she thought she was going to do all of her business in private, and we know what she was trying to cover up. And she knew what the laws were. She knew what FOIA was. She knew what the requirements were for keeping your emails. She knew what the requirements were for classified information. She thought she was going to get away with it. And she thought if anyone had to get her emails, they're going to have to go through her lawyer well after she was president of the United States. Well, it turned out very differently for her, didn't it? And everyone thinks she's out of the woods yet, I think, is naive. And I think the reason she's not out of the woods yet is the vociferous attacks on the president. It shows you that they are very nervous that if things settled down and the law enforcement focus became regular, someone like Hillary Clinton would still be facing significant criminal liability. And so the reaction to the loss, you know, the criminal class in many ways lost on Election Day last year. And the reaction to that is to, again, abuse the powers of government to go after the duly elected president of the United States. So they created what I call the unicorn theory of the election, that the Russians somehow hacked the election and Donald Trump was in collusion with the Russians, ignoring the fact that the only specific information we had about foreign money going into someone's personal coffers was related to Mrs. Clinton, for which she still needs investigation. And because the hardcore left controls the levers of government and the media, they were able to create the scenario where the president would be facing criminal liability and potential impeachment. And if they can't get him, they'll get his family. And believe me, if we thought a president Republican had done anything wrong, we'd be first out of the gate saying, hey, there needs to be an investigation, there needs to be an independent investigation, there should be consideration of impeachment, congressional hearings and such. But it's obvious nothing went on. It's obvious. So we're facing this crisis where they're breaking the rules, illegally leaking. Devin Nunes, one of the few members of the House who is kind of a whistleblower because he figured out by reviewing materials at the White House, intelligence materials, that the Obama gang was unmasking and spying on individual citizens in arguably an unlawful way. And of course, they were leaking classified information and violating the privacy of those citizens. So does anyone think that a president who would allow his IRS to target his political enemies and suppress an entire political movement against him would think twice about using the intelligence apparatus to spy on these same individuals and people? And political opposition both in his party and outside his party? Of Of course not.
So there you heard it. Tom Fitton himself hitting the nail on the head, saying, you know, these people, not only do they still need to be held accountable for the crimes that they committed against this country, but if they were willing to do these crimes and look at what they did with the IRS, what do you think they'll do if they get back in power? That's why this is of the utmost importance to not only the freedom of us as a whole, as a nation, but to the integrity of our nation as a whole. So, and our justice system. So that's really what's most important right now. And Q says, locked on target, painted, planned, and immediate Q. So that means this has been planned. It's coming in an immediate time frame. And painted just means like marked. So, for instance, you would paint a target if you were about to, you know, call in an airstrike. And that's what that is referring to, I think, metaphorically speaking. The next one here is a Twitter post that is the Great Awakening video that we know, where it has President Trump and his speech that we've heard, right? This is our movement. And it talks about to look at when this speech was done. And since it is a little bit longer, I would say that I will leave a link to this and you guys can watch this full thing if you want on your own time. I'll give you links to everything down in the description. But Q says, listen carefully, date speech made -1 election day, Q. So I think obviously what he's referring to is that this was made the day before the election, and it was him basically giving us the full rundown. So you want to listen to that for yourself and make up your own mind. Also, that reminds me, I just want to remind everyone, I missed this post in the last episode, and it said, boom, week ahead, treason doesn't pay well in the end. And I just wanted to retouch on that quickly to remind you that this is a very serious upcoming week, and Q saying that things are going to be happening immediately. I've heard we may be seeing indictments coming soon, but you know, that seems to be what everybody says is coming. We'll see what happens and if it really manifests itself. But the next post here, Q tells us the President Trump's tweet here, actually from May of 2018, the fake mainstream media has, from the time I announced I was running for president, run the most highly sophisticated and dishonest disinformation campaign in the history of politics. No matter how well we do, they find fault. But the forgotten men and women won. I'm president. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it speaks to every level of what we're up against here. The sophisticated and dishonest disinformation campaign is ongoing. And I mean, I would argue it was a coup. So it's even more than just a campaign. It was like almost a military campaign against President Trump, right? More than just a disinformation campaign. And that's what I think about that. So the next post is Q reminding us of this December 6th, 2019 post where it had the FISA-gate poster, and it says, people actually believe those responsible for the attempted coup of a duly elected sitting U.S. president will go unpunished. End to our constitutional republic, no equal justice under the law, no accountability, escape unscathed, enjoy the show, Q. And enjoy the show is highlighted. So hopefully the show will begin very shortly, right? And that's the idea there. But yeah, I'll let you guys make of that what you will. The next one says, never in our history has this been attempted. Patriots worldwide simply needed a spark to reignite the engine for humanity. Where we go one, we go all. And of course, this is referring to this post here from this V for Vendetta account, where it actually shows this global montage of people from around the world talking about QAnon and saying where we go and we go all. You know why? It's because we're all brought together by the idea of justice. We're all brought together by the idea of truth and by the idea of freedom. So that's what this movement is about more than anything. It's about our freedom to tell the truth, to speak the truth, and to have equality of law that produces actual justice, right? So that's what we're doing this for, and I think that's what this highlights. And thank you to everybody who watches. There are people that watch this show from around the world. There are people that follow Q from around the world. It's because we all find common ground in our belief in truth, justice, and freedom. So that's the way I'll put it. The next one here says, it's Q giving us this older post, right, where it told us, why are they pushing back the Democrat convention? COVID-19 concerns strategic for last minute change. Change of bad are coming. Remember that post where Q said, why was she saved from officially announcing? Why was she reserved for a last-minute change? How do you sneak one in? How do you attempt to ensure victory? Adopt national vote by mail? How do you convince America or Americans it was legitimate? Release fake polls indicating favorable leads in swing states? How do you harm opponents' accomplishments regarding economy, unemployment? How do you terminate opponents' highly effective rallies? How do you shelter Democrat lead candidate from embarrassing debates and or rallies? How do you shelter Democrat corruption regarding FISA, Russia, Flynn, etc. from reaching mainstream? How do you extend the trade negotiation deadline with China? How do you limit test constitutional rights of people? How do you provide cover for state governments to adopt new voter laws? How do you effectively control the population? How do you expand big tech overreach regarding tracing and privacy issues? And you can't see the bottom one, but it says, the bottom few here, I'll pull it up. How do you fix taxpayer bailout, the long broken economies of California and New York? How do you enrich select people, companies by promoting a solution to a global crisis? How do you keep people living in fear and isolation in order to accept the above? Define insurgency. How do you accomplish all of the above? Q. Well, think about it. First of all, what does this virus do, right? Q's telling us right here, it shuts down our ability to come together and have these effective rallies where we come together as patriots and spread our message out into the world. Also, it helps Biden, hide. It also gives them an opportunity to sneak one in, as in Hillary Clinton and Obama, apparently. That's going to be something we're talking about here in a second. But it also tells us about how it covers up for the Russia Flynn stuff, keeps that out of the news, right? Then it also gives all of these tyrannical, fascist, leftist governors an excuse, right, to pass laws saying, oh, now we can have all mail-in voting because we don't want to spread the virus. Are you kidding me? That's how they are going to steal this election. And then big tech shuts you down, right? How do you expand big tech's overreach, tracing and privacy issues? They're literally going in to your private direct messages and saying, you can't say this. It's Big Brother from Orwell's 1984. People just don't realize it yet. And the people that do realize it are trying to wake up those that don't, because we want to save everyone. But look, that's the insurgency we are up against. These people are criminals. They're just enriching themselves. They want to keep you isolated and afraid. And then they'll steal the election and put you back to sleep so you can be a good little slave, because that's what they want. So Q gives us this Hill.com article, right? A Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama ticket to replace Joe Biden. Is it even possible? This is going to be their plan, right? And Q told us it was coming, so here it is. Because we all know Joe Biden doesn't have the capacity to do this, and he would never stand up to a debate or anything like that. That's why they're doing all this stuff. They're basically trying to hedge their bets and cover all their bases, saying, look, we're going to, bolster the panic. We're going to lock people in their houses like slaves. We're going to force these leftist, corrupt, fascist governments to enact these draconian policies and then help us rig the election so we can steal it back. Because what have they been doing for the last 4 years? They've been trying to run a coup against President Trump. So you don't think they're going to use their criminal cartel to run an election scheme to try to manipulate the elections? And then they'll probably blame the Russians, right? Because the Russians are the ones who are behind all the crimes that they committed. It's insanity. But this is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. If these criminals are allowed to take back power, it should worry every American more than anything that is coming from an outside threat. This is the threat from within. So Q tells us in the next one here to look at this justice.gov page, which talks about the deprivation of rights under color of law. So this basically says, whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both, and if bodily injury results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include the use, attempted use, or threatened use of a dangerous weapon, explosives, or fire, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both, and if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping and or attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life or both, or may be sentenced to death. Let that sink in. To all you fascist, tyrannical leftists trying to shut us down and make us slaves and take away our constitutionally guaranteed rights, I want you to read this Title 18 USC Section 242 very slowly and understand that you will be held responsible for your decisions and your actions. So you better be wise in how you decide to move forward from here. Because we, the people, have the right to use these protections to make sure that you don't enslave us. That's the bottom line. So let that be something to remember for them. Q says, digest, know your rights, Q. And that's for you guys too. Remember that. When they tell you you can't exercise your constitutionally guaranteed rights, like your First Amendment rights or your Second Amendment rights, remember, we are protected in the law. Remember that. The next one here, Q points us to this picture, this screenshot of a tweet where from Anthony Sabatini saying, the state attorney's office 6th Circuit just dropped their case against my client, Galen Wood, the first Floridian to be arrested for opening a non-essential business. It's clear there is no valid legal authority for either the state or local emergency orders, which basically means they can arrest you, but they cannot convict you because there is no law that says they can strip you of your constitutionally guaranteed rights. And I'd love to see them try to justify that in any court of law. So that's what we're up against, ladies and gentlemen. The next one here, Q says, he gives us this tweet, right? And it says, meanwhile, regular doctors like me, and I guess this guy's a doctor, are using hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc to good effect. One nursing home in Northeast Ohio had 30 cases, started everyone on HCQ, no deaths, quick recovery. Why would the MSM hide this? Why would Twitter block people who question the WHO? Well, I wonder why. Because they don't want you to get better. They don't want to protect you. You are just an inconvenient slave who's getting in the way of their domination of you and your mind and your ability to have freedom, because it infringes on their criminal cabal that they've been using to brainwash, indoctrinate, and enslave the masses for, I don't know, it's been going on for a while, right? And that's just my opinion. But there you go. Take it and do with it what you will. Q says logical thinking. I think we all know what that means. The next post here is from Mike Pompeo. It's a piece of scripture from Proverbs, which, you know, today is Sunday, and we will be doing a little bit of a segment at the end here where we talk about God. I hope you guys stick around for that. And but this is the verse he shares. Quote, "Be sure of this, the wicked will not go unpunished, but the descendants of the righteous will go free." Remember, we're all in this together. And no matter what happens in the end, God wins. Remember that. The next one here is this article from My State Online talking about Illinois releasing 146 sex offenders, including 3 sexually dangerous persons convicted in this Winnebago and Ogle counties, right? Because of COVID-19. But if you open your business, you're going to jail. They're not going to release you, but they'll release all the criminals, just like they're doing here. 7 high-risk sex offenders, and this is just another article that goes in with it perfectly, released from Orange County jails. DA office issues community warnings. Think about that. They have to warn you, we're releasing these sex offenders, but you're going to be arrested if you try to save your business. If you go to try to work to earn a living, to support your family, and to put food on your table. What world are we living in? We're living in this bizarre world that they've created, and it's bad. Q says, why are Democrat governors around the nation releasing convicted felons dangerous early? Why are Democrat governors around the nation instructed law enforcement to arrest those who challenge, do not comply with lockdown orders? Reconcile Q. If anybody can give me an answer that makes sense on that, I will gladly listen, but there is nothing that could excuse this kind of perversion of justice in our society. So you guys let me know what you think. Q says sometimes you can't tell the public the truth. You must show them it's time to wake up, Q. And that's a truer statement now than ever. We have to wake up. They're not going to give us back our rights. We have to get them back, right? They're going to take as much as they can every time they get a chance. Remember that. So even if you're woken up, if you've awakened to what's happening, you have to help wake up the rest of the people out there. Now, the next one here is this Daily Caller post, which, I'll let this clip speak for itself.
Now, I've directed Superintendent Brown to order all police districts to give special attention to these parties. And this is how it's going to be. We will shut you down, we will cite you, and if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period. There should be nothing unambiguous about that. Don't make us treat you like a criminal. But if you act like a criminal and you violate the law and you refuse to do what is necessary to save lives in the city in the middle of a pandemic, we will take you to jail, period.
You hear that? If you don't follow her orders, she's going to throw you in jail, right? For having a party, because she is the tyrant that reigns over that kingdom. You are a serf, a peasant who must forego your constitutionally guaranteed rights, and now they can put you in jail for congregating in a group of more than 10. Think about that. That's where we're at. Is that the new normal that you want to live with, or your family wants to live with, or your friends, or your community? Ask yourself that question. Look at these people. They're exposing themselves. It's fairly obvious. Q says, why are the gatekeepers releasing of criminals, jailing of non-compliance, lockdown people, all Democrat? Know your rights. So it's a funny system that happens in these Democrats, run governments, whether it's local, state. They will lock up all of the law-abiding citizens who are trying to get back to work, trying to make sure they don't lose everything and don't, or can actually feed themselves. But if you're a criminal who's already in jail, they're going to release you because you'll probably go vote for them. Hey, I love that mayor. They released me from jail early. Oh, they gave me the right to vote, and I'm a 5-time felon. Oh, I love it. While the guy who's working at his apartment or working, really hard to keep his store alive, his independent business, small business, gets thrown in jail. Yeah. Know your rights, people. The next one here is Tech Review Post, which is saying this new workplace monitoring tool issues an alert when someone or when anyone is less than 6 feet apart. Amazon is also using similar software to monitor the distances between their warehouse staff. So welcome to communist China. Welcome to the social credit system. Welcome to the never-ending, ever-growing Big Brother surveillance state that they are creating and have launched against you and I. Welcome to the Orwellian dystopia of 2020, ladies and gentlemen. Ready to stand up? Q. The next one here is a post from Twitter of a man being arrested and pulled out of his tattoo shop for opening in defiance of the order to shut down and remain closed. Yes, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. You can't open your business. You can't save your livelihood. You have to sacrifice your livelihood, your business, all of your money, everything that you've put on the line to get to where you are today because of the pandemic, because you are just too dangerous to have freedom. Your constitutional rights out the window. That is un-American, and we are going to stand in complete and direct opposition to that. Always. So Q says, can you see clearly now? Yeah, I think we can. The next one here, Q gives us this meme. In reality, they're not after me. They're after you. President Trump's just in the way. People, an informed, free-thinking public awake is their greatest fear. United we stand. Yes, that's very true. And the next one here, Q gives us these President Trump tweets from an anon that say, intelligence has just reported to me that I was correct and that they did not bring up the coronavirus subject matter until late into January, just prior to my banning China from the U.S. Also, they spoke of the virus in a very non-threatening matter-of-fact manner. Fake news got it wrong again, as always, and tens of thousands of lives were saved by my early ban of China into our country. The people that were allowed were heavily scrutinized and tested, U.S. citizens, and as such, I welcome them with open arms. Yeah, think about that. But Q says here, very non-threatening intel assessment. What would have happened if POTUS challenged the COVID-19 narrative from the beginning, Q? And I think what Q is telling us is that that was the plan, right? They knew that no matter what, this would hurt President Trump, and that's why they did it, right? Because like I've said before, they would rather destroy this country and apparently the world rather than be held accountable for the crimes that they've committed against the free people of not only this nation, but the nations of the world. So yeah, that's where we're at. And finally, we got a very special post from Q Plus himself, aka President Trump, saying, and this is a meme I guess he's sharing with us. I got goosebumps. It just posted, "Stay with me, deplorables. You'll love how this movie ends." I certainly pray so, and I hope so for our country, and I'm praying for all of you out there as well. So that's incredible. Thank you, Mr. President. Now, before we go, I wanted to talk very briefly about this story of a reporter from Rolling Stone, Michael Hastings. I want you guys to dig into his life and what happened to him. He died at 33 of a car accident, but it was right after he had written this story that brought down the general who Q just mentioned yesterday, General Stanley McChrystal, who's in charge of the deep state shill operation to use a 3 million strong botnet to go after Q and President Trump. But maybe we should look more closely at the way this Los Angeles reporter mysteriously died after exposing this general in a report from Rolling Stone called The Runaway General, which actually ended in Obama having to relieve this general of his command. So perhaps it would be something to look into a little more closely. I just wanted to mention that story before we leave. And one more, Trey Gowdy, don't expect prosecutions in Durham review of Russia investigation on Martha McCallum. From my sources, I hear Trey didn't bring the ball across the finish line when he had the chance because the Clintons have something on him. And that's just speculation. That's what I've heard. But it makes sense the more you hear this guy talk. He's starting to look and sound a lot like an MSNBC contributor. So that's what I think of them. And that's where we're going to go ahead and leave it. A few things before we go. Watch these videos. Share them on your social media. Get the word out that way. And leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to think about everything. Also, you can find me on Twitter at JustInformU, JustInformTalk. Also at JustInformNews.com, which is at informed_news. And I'm over here on JustInformedNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk, and the backup channel, BitChute.com/JustInformedTalk. A couple of the ways you guys can help out, Patreon. It's a crowdfunding site, monthly donation. You guys keep this channel alive. They've tried to put it out of business. They've taken away all the monetization. They've done everything they can to shut it down, but your support has kept it alive, and I really appreciate it. Check out the site. Link will be in the description. It's a monthly donation. Or if you want to give a one-time or anonymous donation, I'll leave a link to the GoFundMe I have set up in the description as well. Now, before we go, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, and we're going to talk about a very important verse that talks about, the suffering that we go through as Christians and how we overcome that. But first, I want to ask for all of you guys out there to say a prayer, a special prayer for my uncle who's undergoing surgery right now. I ask you guys to say a prayer for him so he gets through it and is healthy on the other end. That would mean a lot to me, so thank you. I thought I'd put that out there first. But let's talk about this verse, about what it means to suffer as a Christian. And we're going to read from 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12 through 19. It says, "Dear friends, when the fiery ordeal arises among you to test you, don't be surprised by it, as if something unusual were happening to you. Instead, as you share in the sufferings of the Messiah, rejoice, so that you may also rejoice with great joy at the revelation of his glory. If you are ridiculed for the name of Christ, you are blessed, because the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you. None of you, however, should suffer as a murderer, a thief, an evildoer, or as a meddler. But if anyone suffers as a Christian, he should not be ashamed, but should glorify God with that name. For the time has come for judgment to begin with God's household. And if it begins with us, what will the outcome be for those who disobey the gospel of God? And if the righteous is saved with difficulty, what will become of the ungodly and the sinner? So those who suffer according to God's will should, in doing good, entrust themselves to a faithful Creator." And that's my message to you. I want to let you guys know that our faith is going to always be the determining factor when we face trials. And we have to approach these trials that come in front of us with joy, because we know God wins. We know we're saved by Christ. We know there was a sacrifice made, and all we have to do is accept that into our hearts. All we have to do is open up our hearts, say a prayer, and connect with God and accept Jesus as our Lord and Savior. And you have this great gift that is eternal salvation. So remember, we never face the trials alone. Even if we are alone here in this world, we're never truly alone. We have God with us. And remember that when you're at your lowest or most down and you're feeling like nothing's ever going to be the same again, remember God is with you. And not only is God is with you, but ultimately the only way to endure life's trials is by faith. And that's my message to you. I want to say thank you for watching. Remember to come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. Also, hit it, punch it, tap it, whatever. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's going to be it for me, though. Thanks for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.